Hello, I'm Priscilla, the host of the Early Bloom podcast. Today we have a special guest, Lucy Lewin from the Profitable Nursery Academy. Today, we're really excited to be talking about how to run a successful nursery, especially when it comes to staff retention and profitability. Lucy, how are you? And thank you for being here.
Hi, Priscilla. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so I would like to know a bit more about how you got started with the Profitable Nursery Academy.
Yeah, it's a great story. One that actually starts with me owning my own 85 place day nursery. Founded almost a decade and a half ago. 2018 arrived and I couldn't pay my staff. And it really destroyed me. I felt that I had one job, and that was to pay the team, and I'd let them down. So I decided to do whatever it took to become the person I needed to be, to have the business that was proud and profitable. So I went on my own journey of exploration. I remember printing off a CEO job description, and between us, I had to Google every word because I had no idea what any of it meant. My first performance review with me was interesting. Almost got the sack.
Oh no.
Decided that I couldn't do this on my own. So I got a coach. I got somebody that I could really learn to trust and grow with. That's when my journey started. So when COVID hit in 2020, my business had already recovered. Okay, so we'd already been through a catastrophe ourselves. So I found myself available, I think is the right word, for other owners and managers and leaders.
Yes.
And I was helping people and offering support, I think, because I'd got the capacity to do it. You know, it felt nice. And I've always been a huge advocate for following your dreams and that kind of finding something that you love. And this just felt really natural. I'd trained as a life coach back in 2014. I'd been doing training and support. And I kind of had one of those like blinding flash of the obvious moments where I thought, my journey could actually help other people. You know, what I've gone through myself, there are some really good lessons in this.
And others might be able to relate and are going through a similar
100%.
experience that you are at that time.
Yeah, and it was about bringing together that. And I just thought if I could help one other nursery owner or manager save themselves from what I went through,
Right.
then that would be really powerful. So I decided to think, right, what did I do? Where did I start? What have I done? What have I created? And started to kind of talk to other people about that. And I had a really good response. And people were genuinely relating to my journey, to my experiences. So that was kind of where it came from, this desire to save, maybe is the right word, or support others to become more confident, to understand the business of business, and actually see how incredible it can be when we merge our head and our hearts, I think.
And at this point, did you have one setting, or did you already have a couple of settings?
So we'd got one.
Okay.
It is a large setting, but I had already started to not be based in the nursery. So
Okay.
part of my own journey in 2019 was, how do I take my heart out of my business, yet leave my heart in my business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
how can I be there without being there? How does everything that I have cried over and sweated
Everything
over,
that you built and still have that involvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you the short answer: operations manual. Okay, like writing down what's expected, what people need to know. If you want to know what I think, how I want you to do it, what I believe, there's a chapter in the 120-page operations manual that will tell you how to do that.
Wow. And so what would you say was one of the biggest challenges that you faced when trying to start the Profitable Nursery Academy?
I think a little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit of how could my story really be useful to anybody else? And a lot of the challenge was, who do I tell? Where do I start? You know, this had been a very long journey for me. And what I didn't want to do is throw on an already exhausted workforce lots more work to do, because, you know, we need less to do, not more. But at the same time, I knew firsthand that everything that I was going to ask them to do was invaluable. So it was about identifying, where do we start? And how do you identify where to start when everybody's starting at a different place?
When everyone's in a different place and facing different challenges within their nursery setting. So what would you say would be some of the areas that you've noticed nurseries need the most help in?
Yeah.
Would you say it has to do with retaining staff? Would it be helping them with their profitability and finances? What are some of the biggest challenges you see?
I think the answer is yes, Priscilla, to all of those.
Yeah.
What I was able to identify are kind of 5 key areas. Okay, so
These are 5 pillars.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah, share with us. Give us an inside scoop.
So the first one is planning, and that's back to that operations manual. Okay, so some people need to start there. Some people need to put, dare I say it, systems and processes into their nursery. This is my first slice of humble pie. Imagine the 5 pillars as the biggest piece of humble pie cake I ever had to eat, okay? For 9 years, I truly believed that systems and processes belonged in factories. Mm-hmm. And if I wanted to have a truly child-centred nursery, then I needed to avoid systems and processes. How can you have rigidity in a child-centred nursery?
Yeah.
I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong. Systems and processes give people space to think creativity, to bring their whole selves to work, and also improve well-being, because all of a sudden you're not all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You can all work towards a goal within your own strengths, within your own capacity, and actually it really makes for stronger teams.
Right.
The second one for me was about kind of planning and preparing. So no one plans to fail, right? They just fail to plan. And again, I wanted this environment where the child's at the centre and everything evolves from the child. And as much as I knew we had to plan, I wanted to make sure that it didn't feel planned. So how do you do that? It's about what you plan for. Okay, it's about having a focus on important things that matter. So having habits. We know that daily habits consistently lead to great outcomes. Well, let's apply that mindset to nursery management, to effective and efficient ways to operate what you're doing. Then the other one was profit. I think I hear so often.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Oftentimes with settings. You hear so many, especially back during COVID, so many settings were closing down, and it was just hard to retain the staff. And as you were saying, one of the challenges that you faced was not being able to pay your staff. Yeah. And I'm sure that was really hard and difficult for you to face, because also I'm sure your staff feel like family, right?
Yeah.
And it's, oftentimes, I think people forget that nursery settings tend to be a child's second home, second family. So letting go of your staff, it's almost like feeling like you're letting go a piece of you, a piece of your family.
100%, yeah. I think the first thing I will say, and the lesson I learnt the hardest, is profit isn't a profanity. And what I mean by that is, quite often in early years circles, we sometimes believe that profit is this gluttonous thing that we shouldn't strive for. We see it as, I'm doing this for the children. What we don't realise is in profit comes the capacity to
do more for the children.
Exactly, yeah.
And invest in other areas, like you were saying, more creativity and programs. And
yeah, it's essential to a business. If you are not making a profit in your business, and I'm going to say something even more controversial, if you're not paying yourself.
Uh-oh, Lucy.
I know, right? There it is, number 1. But no, again, so many owners and managers don't pay themselves. And you need to create a business model that does pay you, because that's not a bad thing. That is essential, because if you've got money to live, to look after yourself, then you'll be surprised how that then carbon copies itself down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everybody does.
Yeah.
The other thing around the profitability is knowing your numbers. I have this thing where I talk about pie in the sky pricing. I'm guilty of it. Everything I talk about because I was guilty of doing it. What do I mean by that? Do you know how for 8 years I worked out what my daily rate was? I looked at the nurseries in my local area and I thought, the They've got nice brand new equipment and really nice garden, so I'm not quite as good as them. But I'm a little bit better than them, so I'm going to pitch myself at the price between the middle of what they charge.
Yeah.
Irrespective of what it was actually costing me to do it, I didn't know. I didn't have any idea, really. Do you know what, Priscilla? And
it's not the mindset to have, right?
No, because I didn't go into nursery ownership to be a businesswoman. I didn't go.
You don't realize that that's what comes with running a setting.
Yeah, I went into
the admin side of it, the business side, not. Yeah.
I wanted to improve the lives of children. I wanted to set solid foundations for future generations to thrive. I didn't want to balance a balance sheet or talk about break even.
The boring stuff, right?
Divorced an accountant, it was it was, I didn't want any of that. But I think what I didn't understand was if I truly want all of those things for the children, the thing I have to do is set the solid foundations as the owner. And solid foundations don't come from burying my head in the sand because I don't want to know about my numbers. Solid foundations come from facing what I need to face, doing what I need to do, and doing some of the jobs that need to be done, not like being done. I set to. It was terrifying. Absolutely. I'm not silly. I'm trained as an accountant many, many years ago. Right? I've got a certificate to tell everybody that I'm a member of the Association of Accounting Technicians. Could I balance my books? No, because I wasn't charging enough. The reality was when I sat down and I looked at my costs, my overheads, all of my fixed costs, then my running costs, I was undercharging by £30 a day.
Wow.
You don't need to be
hard. Yeah.
Do the maths. 85 place nursery. Undercharging per child, £30 a day per child.
You're losing.
That's got lots of noughts on it, I think, hasn't it?
Crazy.
So that was one of my harshest lessons. I think in this, though, comes a lot around value. Okay? We have to make sure that our services are valuable to the people that are using them. Now, in early years, it's multifaceted, isn't it? We've got the people that are our primary service users, the children. And their needs are probably quite different to our fee payers, the parents. We've then got our regulators, Ofsted, who probably have slightly different requirements of us. We have our local authorities who sometimes, and especially going forward with the changes to funding, are going to be large. They're large customers of ours, but we're also service providers to them. So it's so multidimensional that all of these things we have to know about. Okay, and I see my numbers now as a tool to ensure that I am running an effective and efficient business. If I can set the standards, if I can understand those things, I don't like doing it, hands up. I will find a million other things to do than my month-end report. But I know that once it's done, what gets measured, you can improve, okay? You can manage it then. I can see what I'm doing now, every single moment of every single day, and I know where I can spend time or energy or even money. And I think
it gives you now that freedom to then expand into other areas of the business once you tackle and take care of this side, the financial aspect of running a setting.
Yeah, it's terrifying,
that makes sense.
Priscilla. When I sat there and I started to add up the pennies, I did it really simply. I just use a numerical budgeting code. If it's the waste, it's waste. If it's consumable, it's a really simple system. But it's so effective. And it I remember having my first strategy and planning meeting. That's so important. It was me and Kelsey and Shelley in a coffee shop. But at the time, Shelley was our cook. And she actually said, "Can I ask you a question? Why does the waste management number fluctuate? Why don't we pay a fixed amount each month?" And I said, "Well, the contract that we're in, we're charged per the weight of the bin when it's emptied." She was like, "Oh, so the heavier the bin, the more it costs." I was like, "Yeah, that's how it works." Do you know, it took her 3 months. She halved the cost of the waste that we were paying to the company to take away our bin.
Wow.
I don't know where she put it. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer.
Yeah, how did she manage to do that?
I think she just got a bit savvier about what became waste, what could we reuse. So, for example, I've got my whole approach to nursery life. It's called the cardboard box approach. Okay, we talk about when you give a child a cardboard box, they're only then limited by their own imagination and time. Okay, that cardboard box can be an ice cream van, a shop, a spaceship. It can be anything, can't it? So I think what she started to do was buy better. So look for things where there was less waste. If we could, if it came in a cardboard box or some packaging that we could reuse.
Reuse the sustainability part of, okay,
she
that's
would
great.
share it. We've always, do you know one of the things I'm most proud of actually in my nursery is we've never put a disposable nappy into landfill. So in the 14 years that we've been trading, we utilise an organisation that actually makes it into waste.
Oh, wow.
Into energy, makes the waste into energy. So I think that's quite a huge thing from that environmental aspect for us.
Yeah.
That's been really important because, like we say,
You're
sustainability and we're making a difference. So, but yeah, it was just, I never would have been able to come up with whatever it is, that magic that she did in my waste. So one of my other...
You would never think even the smallest parts of, making a difference in your nursery, like the waste, that I'm sure anyone listening to this now might actually rethink like, oh, we could start somewhere like our waste.
Yeah. One of even things like, I remember it now, she was using, the team were using tin cans as pencil holders.
Reusing it.
It was just, it was so incredible. It links lovely into our curriculum intent around teaching children to be kind of globally and environmentally sustainable and conscious citizens. Yeah. So it did link lovely into that as well.
Nice, you're starting them young.
Exactly. But that would never have come from me. Hands up, I would never have done what the team did with that. But the team wouldn't ever have been able to get there if we hadn't started. So what I'm trying to say is what started with how can I save money? How can I reduce my costs? Led to look at this fantastic wider learning around kind of global and environmental sustainability, around sharing great ideas. The team's morale was through the roof because they were using their creativity. I'm happy because I'm not spending so much on, waste. The children were loving it because they were building these like amazing creations and a bit of STEM and everybody was happy. The parents were happy because the children, do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it was a win for everyone.
Yeah. And it started with, how do I reduce my costs? Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. Back to the pillars. So the one after that is people.
Okay.
I think one of our biggest assets that we have in the nursery is our people. Okay, without them, we have nothing.
Yeah.
Unlike other industries or businesses, we rely on our teams to keep the children safe, to teach them, and to care for them. And that is a huge responsibility. And retaining the right people right now is a hot topic in our ears. For
Very
me,
much. Something I've noticed as a social media manager for nursery management software will Blossom. Oftentimes I want to go down to nursery settings to film a bit of content. And I find it so hard to make my way down there only because they always are understaffed.
Yeah.
And so what advice do you have for nursery settings to help retain their staff? And having your own nursery setting, how do you also help your staff when it comes to their own professional development?
So for me, having a talent strategy has really helped me ensure that I've got that long-term vision for what I want, need and expect from my people within my organisation. Now, that does mean that I have to play the long game. Okay, so I appreciate that if you've got a hole in your rota on Monday morning, me sitting here saying, you need a long-term vision for you, doesn't really help, okay? So stay with me. There is method in my madness. Retaining good staff right now is really difficult because there are lots of jobs available. So that means if you are an educator right now, the ball's in your court. You know, you have technically and arguably all of the power because there is lots of jobs available. So you don't any longer you no longer have to stay somewhere that you're not happy.
Right.
So for me, what's been really important is really understanding my team, understanding what's important to them, but also having a vision for my nursery. So my team are the custodians of our vision. Okay, they take my vision of being the flexible childcare solution for busy families and they make it happen. They make it happen through our values of being fun, flexible and full of love. Mm-hmm. They know that everything that they're doing on a daily basis has a purpose. We know from looking at data that the landscape has changed, definitely since the pandemic. People out there in the workforce now want to work for organisations who's purpose-driven, who they want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. They want to make a difference.
That's so true.
Yeah, they want the company's values to align with their own.
And this mindset also applies to so many sectors. I mean, people just want to feel that they have purpose.
Yeah.
Especially in what they do day to day.
Tell me, you are the architect of the future generation's brain. You get to sit with the next leaders and creators and inventors of the world.
That's true.
And play a part in their fundamental foundations. 90% of brain development happens in the early years.
Right.
Whilst the children are in our care. We are literally creating brains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You are shaping.
You know, I once heard a really great phrase where it said, brains are built, not born. And I just think, whereas if you are looking for a career that is purposeful, impactful and huge, then why would you not want to work in early years?
Early years it is, and that's powerful.
Yeah,
I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
That's true, because you're shaping the future generations to come, and that's huge.
Yeah, and that's exciting, okay? So for me, it's about understanding that these people that we've got, our talent, okay, is incredible humans, okay? They are dedicating their lives to understanding and developing the next generation. And if that's not purposeful, then I don't know what is. So understanding that that's who our people are, but also understanding that everybody's got strengths. Some people are naturally gifted in areas that others aren't. And for me, it's about understanding individual strengths and allowing them to work to those strengths rather than working against what is natural and innate.
So, Lucy, something that I've come across often when I'm in these Facebook nursery groups is that oftentimes nursery practitioners want to leave their job because they feel underpaid. They feel that they're working in a toxic nursery setting environment, and they're looking to transition out of their job. What advice do you have for them? And perhaps it's time that we change the narrative.
Yeah, 100%. You've said it there. I think as leaders and managers, we've got to become the agents of change. Okay,
I love that. Yeah. The agents of change.
Agents of change. We have to love ourselves first. Okay, we do that by changing the narrative. Yes, you know, we can sell or talk about through the lens of underfunding, underpaid, overworked, emotional toil, and all of those things. But here's the thing. Think back to what I said a minute ago about this is a sector where we're shaping future generations' brains. We are working at the foundational level of leaders, creators, and inventors of the future. This is a fantastic opportunity, and I really believe it is a privilege to work with these children. What I would say to those educators who maybe are feeling undervalued is to do a little bit of self-reflection, okay? Maybe the environment that they're in isn't right for them. Think back again to what I said about when people work in their innate strengths. Just because a nursery isn't right for you doesn't mean that early years isn't right for you. Okay? My nursery's always been, you're either going to come and you're going to love me or you're not. And that's okay. You know, I don't set out to be all things to all people. I set out to be authentically me. Okay? If that fits with what you're looking for, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. So I will say to educators, really think, do some self-reflection on why you want to work in early years. And I promise you there are businesses out there are nurseries out there that are looking for you too. This is that mix and match situation, isn't it? It's about looking for where you find. If you are an educator looking for the ideal nursery, think about what you want to know. What is their mission? What do they value? What is important to them? And find the ones that fit.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned something earlier when we were talking about retaining staff. I think it's important to work in a nursery setting where their goals and your goals align.
100%. I think I do an activity quite often with people, and it's called my dominant hand exercise.
Okay.
It's where I would say to you, take a pen and a piece of paper, and write down a sentence. Maybe write, I think Lucy's amazing. Okay, and I get that people chuckle like, oh, do you want me to write this? I'm like, no, actually, just with your dominant hand, play with me here, and they write it. Okay. Then I say simply, swap hands. Now, with your non-dominant hand, write the same thing. And what changes straight away is all of a sudden, it's not as easy and as comfortable to write with your non-dominant hand, unless you're ambidextrous, and kudos to those people in the world.
They miss the point of the practice.
Yeah, you missed the point of this, but anyway. But what is really powerful in that exercise, and I urge you after our podcast today to give it a go, because what that shows is what it's like to work in your strengths. When you're using your dominant hand, it's easy, it's light, it's simple, you can do something else. If you're using your non-dominant hand, it's more difficult. There is more cognitive need, or you have to think harder about it. It's draining.
Yeah.
That's what it's like to work outside of your strengths. It's not impossible.
It's like swimming against the current almost.
100%, yeah. So find the place or the people. I would also say one of the things that has transformed nursery culture for me is real, genuinely honest, candid feedback. Okay, and what I mean by that is not being nice. Now, I'm not saying go around be horrible. That's the polar opposite of what I'm saying. I have a mantra, and I explain this to my team from the get-go, and that is everything that I do comes from a place of kindness and love. I genuinely want humans to reach their full potential. Now, whether they're humans in nappies or grown-up humans, okay? For me, it is you're all human development. Now, for me to get the very best out of you sometimes, I need to probably say things that are going to come across as a little bit not nice.
Harsh, yeah.
Yeah, truthful. But remember, I do it because I care. I care personally enough about your development to challenge you directly. It's not easy for me. You have to rumble a little bit with that sense of, that feeling of uncomfortableness to feel brave. I changed the narrative. Again, we used to call them difficult conversations, okay? So that difficult conversation with a parent, or a difficult conversation with a colleague, or even a difficult conversation with a child. And I thought, no, wrong mindset again. These conversations, yeah, okay, difficult they are. But you know what I believe they are? Courageous. I believe if you think, I've got to go and have a courageous conversation right now, all of a sudden that's empowering. I've got this. Okay.
Yeah.
Same conversation, same words, very different place where you start from.
Yeah.
Which means the language.
Shifting it, the language, so it doesn't feel so negative, like something
and
so difficult to have versus something that's going to, empower you to
running away
progress,
from those conversations destroys culture. Okay, so you mentioned toxic environments. I would say in a toxic environment, you've got a combination of people that are nice, so wouldn't ever challenge the status quo because they're nice. They think that being nice is how you behave, which it is, but not to the point.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, in this context.
Mixed with lots of maybe some people who are the opposite of that, where they are obnoxious, they're aggressive, they're to the point. Oh, can I give you some feedback? That was rubbish. Oh, can I give you? I hate that, by the way. Can I give you some feedback? Blah blah blah.
It already feels negative.
Yeah. Ask the question. Hey, can I offer you some feedback? Now, if they say no, say, okay, that's great. I'd really value some time. Can we make some time tomorrow or later or whatever? Contract first. Set the intention. Also, remember that all of my team know everything I say comes from a place of kindness and love. That's from day one.
And you've set that tone already from the beginning. So,
and we as a team don't say it to pick fault. We say it because I truly believe if you walk past something that's below standard and you let it happen, you've just created a new standard. And actually, children deserve the very best of us. They deserve us to show up at the very best. Now, sometimes we get off course. Sometimes we go down a different direction without realising it. And that's what feedback does. I see feedback. Here's a metaphor for you. Stay with me. Bowling, 10-pin bowling. Your goal or where you want to be or the perfect outcome are the 10 pins at the end. What feedback is if you've ever gone bowling with children and you pop those sides up, okay, without them, you're going to fall down there. With feedback, they're going to keep you heading down towards your goal. And if you see it like that, if you see it as professional challenge, the other thing I think within people is professional dialogue. Professional dialogue, professional discussion, and having a psychologically safe culture where you can fail, but fail knowing that it's a stepping stone, it's a learning that's going to move you towards something even better is really important. You know, we celebrate failure within my organisation more than we celebrate success because we know that in that moment,
you're growing.
Raw,
You're growing.
We're growing and failure happens. And it's when you see it as a lesson to learn. Complaints are the best tool for improvement. You want to know how good you are, ask people. But don't just ask them when you know you're on top of your game. You know, don't come down the stairs all dressed up for a night out and say, hey, how do I look? Start early, yeah? Ask people when you are in the depths of something deep, because that's when you're going to get true answers. And that does lead quite nicely into the fifth pillar, which is professional development. Professional development, in my opinion, isn't something that is saved for the good days, okay? When time and money is of abundance, that's when we develop. No, that's wrong. No good athlete, for example, wins the Olympics and then gets a coach, okay? Professional development needs to be integral even in the darkest days. In fact, when the chips are down, professional development is your vehicle to move you away from there. Now, I know that in a sector at the moment where we are cash and time poor, sitting here saying, what you need now is go spend some time and money on training. You know, most leaders and managers go, absolutely not, I haven't got the time. Well, here's the thing. Rather than taking your team out of the day-to-day to put them on a manufactured artificial course, why don't you take the learning to the classroom? Why don't you make the day as much about their development as it is about the children's development? Bring professional development through the lens of professional discussion, reflection, bringing in experts. Do it in the moment. Develop your team as naturally as you present snack to the children. Yeah, if we again change our perception on what we're doing in a day, we don't have to find more time. You know, you've already got a captive audience of 10 hours a day, more than that in some settings, where you've also got all of the children that you need to practice to see if this teaching method works. Why? I find it so fascinating that in early years, most of our training or learning and development happens in, village halls or conference centres where we then go, okay, we're going to role play now. And everybody goes, oh, no, I can't do that. Well, here's the thing. Here's an environment where you're not role playing. Video your practice.
You can actually put it to the test here, and this is where you're spending the most amount of hours.
Yeah,
so
it's real, it's relevant, it's timely, it's cost effective. You're not doing anything. And share it with the children. Say to the children, Lucy's learning today. I need to practice telling you a good story. Should we see if I'm any good at it? Then what did you think, children? Do I get a thumbs up? Or, there is no more greater critic.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Children are the most honest. So
they will tell you
They will give you honest feedback.
That was a bit of a boring story. Oh, okay, how can I improve it then? But, why not? Why not give that a go, I would say, though, the key to all of this links back to strategy. Okay? Pick out what you want to work on first. I will always say brain dump it all, mind map it, get a big piece of paper and, big colourful pens. Write down everything. And this is from unqualified through to apprentices, right the way through to owners, leaders and managers. Sit down and really get everything out of your mind, what it is that you want to be, achieve. Do your firefighting list, what's stopping you, what's getting in the way. Because in all of that colourful madness is the very early beginnings of a great plan. I also have in my organisation roadmaps for every single member of my team. Everybody's got a career development pathway. Some of those paths lead those people out of my organisation. Okay, so some of them want to become teachers. Some of them want to become social workers. By having a path, even that it leads out of my organisation, means that today when they show up, I get the very best of them. Because they
100%.
They know that they're on their own pathway, but for today, that's for tomorrow. But I get the best of them today. So rather than seeing professional development and career pathways that go outside of your company as a negative, see them as a really powerful
because you're getting the
thing.
best of them now.
Yeah. And I think it's Richard Branson famously said, train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so that they stay. And that's kind of been really core of all the kind of talent, people and professional development strategies that I've always had. I want you to be on your journey and I want to play that really small part so that you can be the very best that you can be. If you choose to go on to other things beyond me, thank you for being a part of our story and come back anytime. And I think, testament to that is the amount of people that I'm still connected with who have been part of our journey over the last 14, 15 years. And it is really lovely and heartwarming to think that, some of these people have gone on to do some incredible things in early years or at least in education. And I'm so proud of them. And I wish them all genuinely well because for me having that strength in where they're going, like you said, it brings them to be their very best today. And actually, selfishly, today is where I want them.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? It's that like win-win, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're happy because they're on a journey. I'm happy because I get a really good version of them.
Yeah. I think that's some really good advice.
Yeah.
Really, really great advice. Lucy, thank you so much for coming today. It's been really a pleasure to have this conversation with you. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way?
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Lucy Lewin, or you can visit theprofitablenurseryacademy.com and take a look at some of the things that we've got there.
Amazing. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.